fires led magic. The wizards won, fires led magic.
Midnight wind whispers through the pines, shadowed hills where the lost sun hides. I close my eyes and I start to ride to the land where my dreams collide. Oh, take me where the moonlight bleeds across the fields of forgotten dreams. In haunted valleys I will roam, in magic lands I call my own.
Midnight highway black as a raven's wing, dust kicks up where forgotten bells still ring. Moonlight bleeds through the cracks in my mind, chasing shadows of a place I can't find. Heartbeat echoes in the hollers hollow where dreams and nightmares learn to follow. There's a world just beyond our own, where the lost and restless roam. Get the wizard before he gets you, son, for you'll notch his pistol sure. Rust-stained roads and twisted pines hide old curses in crooked lines. I've seen his lantern burning cold, guiding souls to tales untold. Your reflections won't be the same when he calls you by your true name. There's a world just beyond our own, where the lost and restless roam. Get the wizard before he gets you, son, or you'll notch his pistol sure. Dreams bleed into the waking hours. Night extends its hungry towers. Truth and fear entwine their roots when shadows gather at your boots. When shadows gather at your boots.
Thank you. I had the mic clipped off. Can you hear me now? Hopefully you can hear me now. Hey, Pat. Can you guys hear me now? All right, cool. Thanks, Pat. Well, good evening, everybody. It looks like an extra slow Saturday night. Saturdays can be slow, anyways, and of course, things are always slower now than they used to be around here. It is what it is. We tell the truth, and that's never as popular. And so that's a decision that I knowingly made a long time ago when I decided to make sure, no, I'm not going to tolerate putting stuff out there that's not true. I'm not going to tolerate being unobjective and not trying to ask questions and at least get to the truth. So Victoria over in Dublin. So here's what we got going on these days. Coming up on December 1st is the Brian Walsh trial, and we will be covering that. And we're going to cover it in a very similar way that we did the Karen Reed trial. So we'll be here paying attention, and we'll have a panel. Won't be as big of a panel, but I will have Jen Coffenaffer and also Margaret McLean. So there's an FBI agent, former FBI agent, and a lawyer, former lawyer right there. In addition, Jen has some lawyer friends of hers that she goes on Court TV with and other channels that she wants to have on. And I said, that's fine. That's great, actually. So we'll have some different guests that come in and out on this. And we'll be paying attention and covering the trial closely. This is another Massachusetts case, another case in Norfolk County. And this is an interesting case because this is one where they're charging the defendant with murder despite having never found the body. So those cases are kind of rare. From what I've seen of the evidence, I haven't seen too much of it yet. It seems like it's a pretty strong case. But, I guess they always seem like that until you hear all the evidence, right? So we'll see. So the other thing that I have going on is I have a guest that's in the works. We just haven't set the day yet. He is very involved with his research. Excuse me a second. All right. His research, he works closely with artificial intelligence and drug development. And waiting for him to get back from London. And he's an MIT guy, lives in the Boston area, his company's in the Boston area. And this research is fascinating to anybody it's fascinating to anybody, period, just the science behind it. But it also has a personal interest for me because of drug development. But really, any one of us out there, you have, whether you're of a certain age or you have parents and family that's of a certain age, serious illness is going to affect all of us at some point or another. And we're about to go into a different age. We may be 5 years away, we may be 10 years away, we may be 15 years away. But I think we're going to start seeing advances that are reflected, at least in clinical trials, within the next few years. And that's a big deal because drug development normally takes like 20 years. It takes like 15, 20 years. Even it takes a long time just for a drug to get to the point where it's approved for a clinical trial. And they start, it's being studied in the lab, and then it's being studied on lab animals, and then finally it goes to clinical trials. Now you think it's home free, right? It's about to reach something where if it's an effective drug, it's going to be on the shelves soon, right? Nope. The average time from the time that it goes from clinical trials to being available to the public is 5 to 8 years. But AI is going to change all of this. It's going to make the discovery of these drugs faster, but also the testing of these drugs much faster too. So there's a promise of getting this stuff to some of us in time where it can really make a difference. And so I think that's something that maybe people might find interesting, especially in this age where, AI is, there's a sci-fi aspect of it. Is it going to end the world? Could be, right? Or is it going to save us from disease? That could be too, or from many other things that people might be interested in. So he's going to be on, and we're looking to get more guests in that area in terms of artificial intelligence, and especially to start with artificial intelligence as relates to drug development. I've also had a couple of guests that we have not been able to agree to dates yet, that their companies are involved with artificial intelligence for law enforcement. Excuse me. They're developing that tool to be used for law enforcement to help solve cold cases. And I think we're going to be on Margaret's show a little bit Monday night to talk about that. I don't have any guests specializing in that yet, but that's coming soon. We had one that had to cancel last week. So hopefully we'll be able to work that out soon. But this is using artificial intelligence to help get new insights on cold cases, for instance, the John Bonet case. So stay tuned on that. And then finally, one more announcement. So one of the things that I want to do to create content for the show going forward, in case people are interested in this, and let me know if you're interested in it. I like to have a case, say like the Karen Reed case, where you had time to do a real deep dive over weeks and look into all the evidence, where there is a lot of evidence to look into in the first place. And then you have time to go over it. But it's hard to find those cases like that. And it's also hard to have the time to go into those cases like that. So I'm going to cheat. And maybe you guys might be interested to cheat with me. What I'm going to do is, there are some good books out there that take on several cases in depth, but not like a shallow article, but not like a whole book. So what I want to start with is John Douglas has a book called The Cases That Haunt Us. John Douglas is former FBI profiler who, among other things, his work is behind The Mindhunter on Netflix. And he has a book. One of his books is called The Cases That Haunt Us. And in that book, he goes over several cases. And some of these are famous. I think all of these were actually famous historical cases, including Lizzie Borden, John Bonet, Jack the Ripper. So what I want to do is, I bought that book for $10. And if anybody else is interested in buying that book, you can kind of read along with us as we pick a chapter. And I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just saying if you're interested. And so we'll pick a book on that, and then we'll start on one of those cases. And I'll let you know ahead of time, several days ahead of time, so that we can go over that on the show. And if you want to be a little ahead of the game, you can have the chapter ahead of you, or maybe have done some independent research on your own. And so you can have some questions or criticism or things that you want to bring up about that. So Safari, I can do the Lizzie Borden one anytime. That's one case that I have done. I did a long series on that before, so we can do that one next if you like. Yeah, let's do that one next. So that one is covered pretty well in John Douglas's book, and then also John Bonet is covered pretty well in that book too. So we can at least start with those two, and then there are some other books out there after that we could look at. And so this is it's a small audience, but this will at least keep us entertained. All right. So tonight, again, going with the shortcuts here, I'm going to put on a video. This is on the Sam Sheppard case. And these guys, if you're really into true crime, you're probably familiar with these guys. The channel, let's see if I can find what the channel is called. Can't. All right, it's called the BuzzFeed Unsolved Network. And they have a bunch of different shows on it. And we'll go to the beginning of this and see if we can find these guys' name. There are a couple of geeky guys that bring a lot of humor to the stuff they do. I think they do more than true crime. I feel like I saw them do ghost stories once somewhere. So some of you guys might recognize them, but they have a different style. And we're going to let them tell the story here, and then we can react to it. We're not going to play their whole video. Just going to play parts of it. And that way you won't have to listen to me narrate all the elements of the Sam Sheppard case. And I will stop periodically and we can comment on it. And it's an interesting case because Sam Sheppard was the guy that they based the movie and the TV series The Fugitive on. And so it's a true story. And he was convicted. But then he got a new trial. And in the second trial, he got off. And that took place in the 1960s. So long enough ago that the case is still questioned. And I think, as you'll see, it's an interesting case for that reason, especially when we look at this in the context of other cases that we look at, that we've studied here, some of them. And you'll see the relevance. And so I think it's pretty interesting, this case here, because it's very possible that this guy was wrongly convicted, and that's why he got off on the second trial. Or maybe he really is the guy. You'll see why it's pretty tempting to lean either way on this.
On February 21st, 1945, Dr. Samuel Sheppard and Marilyn Reese were married and settled near Lake Erie, Ohio. 2 years later, they had their first and only child, affectionately nicknamed Chip.
Revolutionary Road.
Oh, yes, you're guessing. 2 sentences in, huh?
Yeah.
He's
Does
guessing
anybody
at the
even
movie.
die in that film?
Maybe. I don't remember.
You don't even. You just named a
People get
movie
married
without-
in it.
Sam was a respected neurosurgeon, and the attractive couple was believed to have a happy marriage. Their small suburban community was the kind where all their neighbors were friends, and maybe a little too friendly. On July 3rd, 1954, the Sheppards hosted their neighbors for dinner, drinks, and a movie. Just after midnight, Sam fell asleep on the couch, and Marilyn said her goodbyes to the guests. What transpired in the next few hours has been the source of intense scrutiny and is still a mystery. At about 5:40 a.m. on July 4th, Mayor Spencer Hoke, a close friend of the Sheppards, awoke to a phone call from Sam saying, quote, "My God, Spence, get over here quick. I think they have..."
So here's the first odd thing that we come across here, right? Is this guy, he's attacked in his house, and he's knocked unconscious, and he wakes up to find that his wife has been killed. And he has a young child in the house too. And does he call the police? Does he call an ambulance? He's a doctor too. No, he calls the mayor. It's a little unusual, but that's actually what happened.
Killed Marilyn, end quote. Hoke and his wife Esther raced to the house to find Sam shirtless in his study, holding...
And in the call, he says, "I think someone has killed Marilyn, his wife." And so when they come there, they find him shirtless in the house.
His neck, seemingly in a state of shock. They called the police, and first responders arrived by 6 a.m.
He falls asleep.
Yes.
But then he's calling the cops.
He doesn't call the cops. He calls the mayor.
That's kind of cool.
These are the guys I mentioned. I don't know what the name of their real show is, but I'll leave them on for a little bit here just so you can get a taste of them, because they're pretty funny. So if you're into having a little bit of humor mixed in with your true crime, this could be a channel you might be interested in.
Also,
Skip the cops, call the mayor.
I mean, I guess it's a small town. What the hell's the mayor going to do?
I'd love to know the mayor.
From the police report, Marilyn's body was found lying upwards, her face turned toward the door, beaten beyond recognition. She had over 20 gashes curved deep into her face and scalp. Blood covered the sheets, and the walls were dripping with heavy spatter. Her pajamas were partially removed, leaving her exposed. Eventually, the autopsy determined Marilyn's time of death was, quote, about 4:30 a.m., end quote. It also, sadly, revealed that Marilyn had been 4 months pregnant with her second child, also a boy. According to Sheppard, he had been asleep downstairs when he heard Marilyn shout his name. He ran up to the bedroom to find Marilyn being attacked by a, quote, white form, end quote. They fought, but Sam was hit on the back of his neck and knocked out. When he came to, Marilyn was dead and the white form was gone. Worried for his son's safety, Sam ran to Chip's room, where he thankfully found him sleeping soundly. He then hurried downstairs to see the form exiting through the back door. He chased the tall and bushy-haired figure down to the shore of Lake Erie. Sam explained that he, quote, lunged or jumped and grasped, end quote, at the form on the beach, and then, quote, I felt myself twisting or choking, and this terminated my consciousness, end quote. When Sam woke, it was nearly dawn, and he was missing his shirt and watch.
It's weird. I don't get it.
He wakes up from a nap, hears commotion upstairs. He goes
Sees
in.
a ghost.
No,
A white form.
I don't know why.
See, this is definitely the first odd part of this. Maybe we'll play a little bit of this conversation of theirs too. But so this is a key odd part of his thing. There's a discrepancy here. So this Dr. Sheppard did not tell the police that he chased the intruder into the yard, and did not tell the police that he was knocked unconscious a second time. That was something that he testified to. So that was something that seems to have been added to his story later on. It's not just Karen Reed that adds things to stories, but this guy actually testified. And so that was probably a factor in his conviction, the fact that he had changing testimony. And why does he wake up with his shirt off? Was his shirt off when he chased the intruder onto the beach? Did the intruder strip him? Is that what he's trying to say? It's kind of strange. Can someone even be knocked out twice like that? That's really unusual. And why is he calling it a white form? I guess he didn't really call it that when he first talked to the police. He said something more vague, and he said something about a bushy-haired guy. But then later on, I don't think his testimony was that detailed in front of the grand jury. Actually, I have his testimony somewhere. Let me see if I can find this here. All right, this was his original testimony. He said, I had fallen asleep on the couch downstairs. Sometime in the early morning hours, I heard Marilyn call my name. I ran upstairs and saw a white form, standing over her. I struggled with it, but I was struck on the neck and lost consciousness on the neck. When I regained consciousness, Marilyn was lying there and the form was gone. I went to check on my son, and he was asleep, unharmed. I then saw the figure moving toward the back door. I chased it down toward the lake. I lunged at it, but again, I was struck and lost consciousness. When I awoke, it was daylight. I was missing my shirt and watch, and I returned to the house. I called my neighbor, Maya Hawk, and saying, my God, Spence, come over quick. I think you have killed Marilyn. So again, in his original reporting to the police, he did not report any of that, except maybe calling the neighbor. He didn't say anything about going outside and chasing him the second time. So the story is really strange, right? Even if he had told that story consistently the same way twice, it still sounds like a strange story. Like, you want to wonder if you want to testify that all you saw was a white form. I guess if you were really hazy, if it was dark and someone had just knocked you out and you were traumatized, you try to reach for explanations for that. But again, he woke up, and again, both times he just saw a white form. It's very unusual. And the first time he was struck on the neck. What happened the second time? It's not clear in this quote here that I got. The other guys mentioned something about him being choked. I didn't see that. Maybe that was a part of the testimony I didn't get. When I regained consciousness, Marilyn was lying there and the form was gone. So he was out for a while in the bedroom because that's where she was attacked. I went to, and it was blood. It was a very bloody scene in the bedroom. Keep that in mind. This will come in. It'll be important later. I want to check on my son. I went to check on my son, and he was asleep. Now, some people think he added this to the story because he didn't check on his son. Don't know. I then saw the figure. Why would you go check on your son and then go chase this guy out onto the beach too? That's kind of strange. So I don't even know why. If he was going to invent a story, that seems a strange one to invent. I then saw the figure moving toward the back door. Excuse me. So he wakes up after getting knocked out. Probably doesn't know at that point if his wife is dead or just badly wounded. Sees a lot of blood. Knows he's badly wounded. Checks on his son. And then chases the guy out the door. That's what he testified to. And so whatever the truth is here, I can totally see almost on that alone why a jury would doubt his story. And your wife is dead and you're going to get on the stand and tell a story. It better be the damn truth. It better sound like the truth. When I awoke, it was daylight. I was missing my shirt and watch. So the intruder knocks him out on the beach. When he knocked him out in the bedroom, he doesn't take his watch or his shirt. But then when he knocks him out on the beach, he takes the shirt and the watch. Well, that's really strange. Now, his shirt, his watch, and a couple of rings were found in a bag outside in the yard. So let's add that to the evidence. So jewelry from him, nothing from his wife, just jewelry from him, including the watch and the shirt for some reason, were put into a bag from inside the house, and then it was abandoned on in the yard. Now, why would an intruder do that? I really don't understand why an intruder would do that. It's a very strange part of the story. Another strange part of it. All right, so let me go back to playing the video.
He keeps saying it's a form, like it's Michael Myers. or
A shape.
something.
The shape. He sees the shape.
He sees the shape. Truth or story thus far?
Well, I mean, I don't really have a...
If you had to call it truth or story.
I guess I'd go truth. I don't know the man well enough to really gauge his character. Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
What makes you think this is more plausible than...
I don't know. He seems scared, you know?
I guess. I will say at this point, it sounds like a story to me, mainly because all the details seem wildly convenient in terms of...
What's convenient about a white form, though? Because if you were lying, you'd be like, yeah, there's like a person.
If I'm fighting you and I've never seen you, first...
I didn't kill my wife.
All right, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit, and well, let's see. Where do I want to skip to? I'll take that next one. And welcome, dude. I see you changed your name a little bit, but welcome back. Hopefully, you still have a couple of good dude quotes for us. I'll check for them after.
Safe.
Our first theory, and the most popular one, is that the entire story was made up and that Sam Sheppard murdered his wife in cold blood. There was no sign of forced entry and no murder weapon present at the scene. The desk drawers were neat, which would not be normal in the case of a robbery. Coroner Sam Gerber commented on the blood on Marilyn's pillow, saying, quote, "In this bloodstain, I could make out the impression of a surgical instrument," end quote.
Now, that's really strange. So just want to add, so they never found the murder weapon. Never found it. Just like in the Lizzie Borden case. And so this doctor, who's the medical examiner, testifies that he could make out an impression in the blood of a surgical instrument. It's because the state's theory at the time, I guess, was that the doctor, when he used some kind of an object to attack his wife with, something that, you know, that you see the slash wounds on her face and stuff, that it was some kind of a surgical instrument. So this you know, you're going to see a lot of shady things. So you can this investigation seems kind of, so the doctor's story seems a little off, and the behavior of some of the people involved in the investigation seem a little bit off. So it's just worth pointing that out. And I also when I first listened to this story too, and saw how the doctor or somebody, I think it was the doctor, or certainly the state, was trying to suggest that, I think it was the doctor, that the teeth, which were found, or some of her teeth were missing, that this was proof that she tried to bite her attacker. I know I can't imagine that biting somebody would cause you to lose your teeth, but I don't know.
A weapon that would have been convenient for a neurosurgeon. In a bush outside, Gerber found a canvas bag with Sam's wristwatch, fraternity ring, and key, all covered in blood.
Oh, he's a doctor.
Yes.
Sam Sheppard is a doctor.
That was also
just like the Fugitive.
That was also in the first
Didn't
two
occur
sentences.
to me. Yeah, I got that now. When's Tommy Lee showing up?
I don't know. I think you're getting a little bit away from what we're talking about here. Why does this not look good for Sam?
Because all his shit is covered in blood.
In the days following Marilyn's murder, investigators began honing in on Sam's rumored infidelities as a possible motive. Evidence pointed them to a woman named Susan Hayes, a lab technician at the hospital. Meanwhile, media fervor escalated. By July 20th, headlines read, quote, "Someone is getting away with murder," end quote, calling for Sam's arrest and conviction. On July 21st, the Cleveland Press headline read, quote, "Why no inquest? Do it now, Dr. Gerber," End quote. Sure enough, later that day, Dr. Gerber called an inquest and subpoenaed Sheppard to attend. The 3-day spectacle was a, quote, media circus, end quote, culminating with Gerber asking Sam, quote, did you and Sue Hayes at any time sleep in the same bed, end quote, to which Sam replied, quote, absolutely not, end quote. Following the inquest on July 30th, 1954, Sam Sheppard was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Marilyn Sheppard.
Well, they got to that quick, huh? And honestly, like, investigating these things, like, we just sort of brush the fine.
Well, so part of the basis for their investigating, for charging him, was that, and this was probably a factor with the jury too, is that they proved that he did sleep with that nurse or woman or whatever she was that they asked about, and he denied. So we can skip this part here. And
I am brilliant. I've done my work.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm done here.
On December 16th, the jury found Sam Sheppard guilty of the second-degree murder of his wife, Marilyn. Sheppard received life in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years, but the damage reverberated far beyond his sentence. Sheppard's mother died by suicide just a few weeks later. His father...
Now, when this guy, keep in mind, he says he was attacked twice, knocked out twice, overpowered twice. Another interesting thing about Sheppard, he's in jail for like 10 years, I think, before he gets another trial. And when he gets out, he's not able to work as a doctor. He tried, and actually, in fact, he tried to get relicensed as a surgeon and accidentally killed his next 2 patients by making mistakes during surgery. So what did he do? He became a professional wrestler, if you can believe it. This doctor who's been in jail for a while, now in his mid-40s, becomes a professional wrestler. Very strange, right? And so this guy that was in this fight with this intruder, there must have been some pretty strong intruder that overpowered him, because this guy's pretty strong himself. All right, let's move over a little bit.
First trial. His brothers continued to support him even after the devastating toll the trial had on their family. They hired a forensic scientist, Dr. Paul Leland Kirk, to review the state's physical evidence because Coroner Gerber had not introduced any fingerprint or blood evidence that could have exonerated their brother. Gerber had decided shortly after he arrived at the scene that Sam was guilty, telling another detective, quote, it's obvious that the doctor did it, end quote. In 1961, Sheppard's brothers hired a new attorney, F. Lee Bailey, who got the trial reopened on grounds that it was poorly managed by the presiding judge, Edward Blythen. Bailey argued that Judge Blythen denied Sheppard's defense motion to move the trial out of Cleveland, where there was no chance of a fair trial due to the biased press coverage, because he was seeking re-election, and used the spectacle for his own gain.
You're this man.
I am this man.
You're a doctor. Ryan Bergara is a doctor.
Fucking me, Ryan B.
All right, we can move past it. These guys are pretty funny. We can move past them now.
His release. Sheppard's retrial began on October 24th, 1966. Once on the stand, forensic scientist Dr. Kirk analyzed that the blood splatter would have...
So the retrial was based on different things, but a big part of it was the bias of the judge. So both the forensic examiner and the judge turned out to be very biased against him. So that's why he deserved a new trial.
Covered the murderer in the victim's blood, but Sam only had one spot on his pants. Kirk also determined that much of...
Okay, so the room was covered in blood. This is the key part of why he wins the trial. The room is covered in blood. He only has one splotch of blood on his pants. Now, you might wonder, what about the shirt? The shirt that was found in the bag that he would have been wearing at least at some point, right? There was only apparently one drop of blood on that, or there was only one drop of blood on that was attributed, that was not identified as belonging. I think it was limited blood on it. Not sure if there was only one drop of blood found on it, but there was very limited blood on it. It was not covered in blood at all. And eventually what they did was they brought in, this wasn't even during the retrial. Well, let's just play this here. Let's just see what they say.
The splatter came from the backswing of the weapon, indicating the murderer had used their left hand, but Sam was right-handed. He also noted that Marilyn's teeth were found underneath her body, meaning that she had likely broken them while biting her attacker. Sam had no bite marks or open wounds when he was examined at the hospital. But the most damning evidence was when Kirk revealed the largest blood spot found.
So that seems to have been the defense side that said that that's how the teeth came out. So I got that wrong a little bit, but that makes a difference. So the defense, we saw a lot of strange theories floated in the Karen Reed case by the defense too, and this is what's going to happen in pretty much any famous case or any case where they can afford to get afford to get expensive experts. You're going to find experts to say what you want. So they managed to get an expert that would say that, the teeth, the fact that there were teeth missing, but the fact that Dr. Sheppard didn't have any bite marks on him was an indication that he was not the attacker, which is obviously absurd.
On the closet door didn't match Marilyn or Sam's, so was likely from a third party entirely.
Forensic science is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Now, this was the key thing, is that the blood on the door did not match. But then there's even more on that. And this is, so actually, before I get back to that, let me just check in and see what people are thinking in chat. So let's see. So, all right. So now I can see chat. Guys, what do you guys think about this case so far? What do you think? Do you think the story's odd? Do you think he did it based on what little we have there? And if you ask me some questions, I may have a little bit more evidence, but I'm not sure. We can obviously look up too. Emily says Emily is in favor if he did it. I agree with Maui. Who loses teeth from biting? That seems crazy. Maui thinks he did it. Anybody else have any opinions? Want to chime in? Have any questions? Things that you think are key pieces of evidence, something that bothers you? As far as the marital problems, what they did do is find at least one person to testify that he was cheating on her with this. I forget if she was a nurse. I think she might have been a nurse. And that's not to say there were marital problems. It's just that he was cheating. Victoria in Dublin says he definitely did it. All right, so we're at like 3-0 here on the votes. I don't know if anybody else has any other opinions. The shape of the medical instrument in the blood is pretty damning. So do you really think that they could determine what the weapon, what it was based on just the shape in the blood? Were there any other suspects? Yes. We'll come back to that. There were not suspects at the time. There were suspects that came out later, and particularly were pointed to after he was freed. Sometime after that, after Dr. Sheppard's death, actually, he died young, like around. He died of alcoholism. And around when he was around the age of 47, but then there was a civil lawsuit, and so some of the evidence, so more experts were brought in. Testified to what, Emily? Let's see what I missed. Yes, that is you're right, Emily. That is exactly what the medical examiner said. I'm just saying, I'm a little I'm skeptical that somebody could look at the shape in blood and determine what the weapon was or what the instrument was, and determine that it was that's all I'm saying. Yeah, nothing. I didn't see anything in any of this about fingerprints. Yeah, to me, like obviously, if you have a pistol and somebody puts a pistol down in the blood, that's going to leave a very familiar shape. But I just don't know how you could see the shape of a medical instrument. Well, you're correct, Emily. But the thing is they didn't find that instrument, so I don't know how you could get it just from the shape. That's what I'm thinking. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just a guy in a yellow cottage. So, all right. So years after Dr. Sheppard's death, more evidence came out. Yeah, they had the blood spatter analysis, and that's how at least the defense experts determined that the killer was left-handed and Dr. Sheppard was right-handed. Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Emma, that's not proof of the weapon. So anyways, they were able to do DNA testing on the blood many years later. Like, I think it was around 1990, actually. And what they found, and so I agreed with people here that this story sounded too fishy to me. He probably did it. However, he did not, because the blood pretty much slams the door on the possibility that he did it. I think the blood was collected by the forensic team that morning, and so they were only collecting fresh blood, and it was collected and put into they collected in different splotches, and they had the shirt, and they had taken splotches off the closet door and things like that. And so what the DNA analysis found, that some of the blood that they found did not belong either to Dr. Sheppard or his wife. There was one child in the house, but it was an infant. So there was blood, including a drop of blood that was found on his pants. No, I'm sorry, not his pants, his shirt. The shirt that was put in the bag. So there was blood found in the house that had to have been from that time, because it couldn't have been older blood, because it was collected that morning. The boy wasn't an infant. How old was the boy, Barb? I don't remember. I thought my impression was it was like an infant in a crib or something, but definitely very young, though, right? Too young to have probably heard anything or remembered anything, is like 1 or 2 or something like that. If you want to type it into Copilot or Chat GPT, you'll probably get a quick answer. I can't really type while I'm holding the mic. Oh, he was around 6 years old. Okay. All right. So kind of barely old enough to possibly remember something, but not really. Could have remembered hearing something, I guess, but sounds like he slept through it. The boy was the one that stayed on the civil suits as an adult. And so the blood DNA analysis showed that there had to have been someone else in that room that was bleeding. So that does tend to exonerate the doctor. It's still really hard to make sense of his story. Why does he take his own shirt and his jewelry and his watch? Or why would it, I'm sorry, in this case, if it's somebody else, why would an intruder take the guy's shirt? Why would the intruder take the shirt off him and then take his watch and the jewelry and put it in a bag and then leave that in the yard? Right. The son spent years trying to get his father's name cleared. Yep. Is that what he said? He heard a man's voice? Okay. But like I said, the DNA analysis seems to have been pretty conclusive that he had to be innocent. I mean, unless he had somebody working with him, which that doesn't make any sense. So let's go to the guy that eventually was the suspect.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
It's a noodle man.
Which leads us to our second theory. Our second theory is that Sam Sheppard was telling the truth. and his wife was murdered by a, quote, bushy-haired white form, end quote. Beyond Sam's statement, as many as 3 witnesses testified to seeing someone matching that description. Richard and Betty Knitter told the police they saw such a man near.
So this is weird too. So there's a couple of this Richard and Betty Knitter that say they saw the bushy-haired men, but this was like between 3 and 4. What were they? How were these? Where were these witnesses that they saw this bushy-haired guy? Were they out walking their dog? It's really, really unusual. And what they saw was very specific. I can quote it here. I pasted the quote somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. I'm sorry, I can't find where I put it. Anyways, well, what they described was someone in tremendous detail, which really matched up to the bushy-haired guy. Where were these neighbors that they saw this? Let's see if these guys talk about it.
the Sheppard's home around 3:30 to 4 o'clock a.m. on the morning of the murder, which lines up with Marilyn's time of death at around 4:30 a.m.
Just really quickly, I don't know why it didn't occur to me till now. What are Richard and Betty Knitter doing up at 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning? They have the presence of mind while doing that to look out the window.
Maybe they're freaks, man.
It looks like a bushy-haired white form.
Maybe they're like freaks.
Or they're like
Maybe they're
against
like-
the window.
Yeah,
and they're like,
yeah,
look
that's
at
what
the
I'm
neighborhood.
saying. Yeah,
look at the
yeah,
neighborhood
yeah,
while
yeah.
we do it. Who's that guy? I don't know. And guess.
Right
Right back to
3:30.
You know what I'm talking about?
At 3
Talking about-
at 3:30 in the morning, these guys also see a bushy white form. It's really unusual. It's just like some of the witnesses in the Karen Reed case. Like, yeah, right. Like you really saw that person put her arm around. You really saw Jen McCabe put her arm around Karen, and you really thought it was suspicious at the time. Yeah, right. Sure, you did.
White, between 32 and 42 years of age, wide nose, bushy crew
Oh, okay. This is the actual description that these neighbors saw.
hair,
They
light auburn
reported.
in color, bushy eyebrows, long sideburns, end quote. This was enough detail to provide a forensic sketch.
Sounds like
They-
Kramer.
No, nor do
If
I.
that's the last face I saw before leaving this earthly coil, I wouldn't like it. I mean, he could have knocked himself out by the lake, but
That feels like an insane amount
it's too
of...
much.
But it was Sam Sheppard's son, Chip, who would provide a name to a bushy-haired face. He had spent years trying to solve his mother's murder, and he believed that the blood belonged to Richard Eberling. Richard Eberling had been the Sheppard's handyman for a time and had intimate knowledge of the house's layout, including an obscure basement entrance. Additionally, he had been found in possession of 2 stolen cocktail rings that had belonged to Marilyn Sheppard. However, when questioned about the murder, he passed a polygraph test where he denied killing Marilyn, which cleared him of being investigated further.
So basically, he was cleared because of the polygraph, but yet he had stolen 2 of her rings, and that's, to me, that really all that suggests to me is how dubious some of these polygraph testing can be.
Polygraphs are stupid.
Baloney.
Do we need to say anything more about that?
No, they're bullshit.
Also, he had 2 rings that were stolen. I'm not saying that every time somebody in the house steals something, they're a murderer, but
I stole a little Lego man from one of my friends growing up. Didn't murder him.
yeah,
Despite being
First,
I don't think they do. That's an interesting thought, though. Like, what do you...
it's a cool idea. Start a GoFundMe.
Skeleton jail.
But was Richard Eberling telling the truth? Besides the main theories, there were 2 other suspects that raised some questions. The first one was Esther Hoke.
So this Eberlin guy also, I think that was pretty much the end of this Eberlin guy also deathbed confession. So he's eventually goes to jail for another murder, the handyman. Right, the Dr. McDonald one, Barb. That's another interesting case. These were weirdly similar. Yeah, absolutely. And so, anyways, sorry, I forgot what I was saying. All right. Show comments on the stage. Oh, okay. I can do that. Now it makes it harder for me to see them, but you guys can see the comments on the stage. Of course, we can see them. Hey, Jessica. You know, there's only so much more to say about the Karen Reed case. There's little unimportant things that come up. You can actually put this in medium or big. All right, let's try it there. I mean, obviously, I'm interested in the civil trial, but that's a long time down the road because you have to do a lot of depositions and stuff like that. But I'd be curious to see where the Karen Reed, where the Turtle Boy charges go. Though witness intimidation, those can be tough to prove, and there certainly seems to be enough evidence here, but it's an unusual case, and you're going to have the same problem with the jury that you did before. So I know it's a little disappointing, but I don't have to, I hear the same rumors that everybody else does, and I'm distantly aware of all the arguments between recording her, Turtle Boy recording her on the phone illegally and stuff like that. I'm aware of this stuff, but, I just don't think I have anything to add to it. And so I don't feel like I'm bringing anything to you by talking about it too much because I don't know anything new on it. I don't know the details. Let me just change something real quick. All right. So I found that to be an interesting case just because, his testimony was so odd that it makes it almost not certain, but it made it likely that that Dr. Sheppard was guilty to me. But then when I looked up the DNA evidence and I looked up actually not only the DNA evidence, but how the blood was collected at the scene initially, because I wondered, for instance, could the handyman have bled there and they collected, during doing a job. And then they, let's say they didn't collect the blood samples until a long time later. But you would be able to tell if you're a police forensics team coming in that morning, collecting blood samples, you certainly would know the difference between that and some old blood stain that was on there. All right, so now I got that fixed. Anybody else have any more questions? We don't need to do a long show tonight. We got that video out of the way, and we'll just do some quick shows like this for entertainment while we do get ready to cover in depth the Brian Walsh case. Like I said, we'll be covering that every day, and we'll have the panel back to some parts of the panel back together. And now that'll start December 1st in the morning. So we'll be up bright and early every morning. And when is Turtle's trial? I don't even know when his trial is. I don't even think it's been scheduled yet, has it? I don't know, Victoria. I guess the foreman wants to write his own book on this. He's trying to find a publisher. He didn't exactly come across as a towering literary figure in his TV interview, but that's right. There was a new judge assigned to the case, Molly. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. Maui, who did an interview at the college? Turtle Boy? Oh, the foreman. Okay. All right. So he was like a paid guest at a college? Jesus. Yeah, we live in a time that it's a legitimate worry as to what's going to happen to our justice system, because just even to our society in general, because I don't find that too many people, more and more people, are incapable of critical thinking. They're just not capable of it anymore. So for instance, if a lot of these people, even if you could really prove to them that it was impossible for John to go into the house, they still will believe that there was a conspiracy. So you really, it's at the point where evidence doesn't matter anymore because people can't process it. He made a statement that if manslaughter was an option, that they likely would have convicted her. But see, that doesn't make sense. Maui, thank you. And I did see him make a statement like that, but I didn't think it made sense at the time either, because unless I figured it out wrong, I think that when he made that statement, he also said that Karen was not killed, that John was not killed by Karen. So that doesn't really make sense. So even if Karen was only charged with manslaughter, that juror didn't believe that John went in the house. He didn't believe Karen was involved in his death. So it's really kind of inconsistent, right? Unless I missed part of that. Maui said he made a lot of nonsensical statements. Yep. And this is not only a juror, but it's a juror foreman, the jury foreman. And this is why I say it's so discouraging. How can you expect? How does a society expect to go on when so many people are incapable of critical thought? No, Swanton. No. We're still friends, and she may be working on something on her own. I don't know, but we're not working. The publisher didn't want a second book on this, so. Scrolling back to what Maui's statement was. Let's see if I can get this on the board. He said after the EMT, Timothy Nuttall made a statement about the coat. He knew he was lying and that she was not guilty. This is one of the other bizarre things about this. Every time somebody people don't seem to understand how flawed human memory is. And obviously we understand it. And there's certainly, hopefully, still enough normal people around that understand that. But people always say, see, somebody's lying because they don't remember it exactly the way it was, 2 or 3 years ago. And that's what's absurd. So this was the one, I think Timothy Nuttall, the firefighter, thought that he had a coat on, right? I mean, you're just talking about memory. It's a very imperfect thing. This is one of the problems that I had with Nick Rocco on Court TV. He uses the word lie all the time. Every time the slightest change between one person's testimony and another, or between one person's testimony and their previous statements, the slightest change, that could never be an indication of anything but a lie. And he would throw out the word lie all the time. And it's just, it drove me crazy. So he also said that he didn't know anything about the case, or he said he didn't know anything about the case because he didn't want to get on the jury. And that doesn't make sense. I guess so this guy's so stupid that he actually thought that the judge wanted him to be educated about the case before he got on the jury. Yeah, that's troubling. That's troubling that this guy is that dumb. That's beyond dumb. So we're almost up to 9 o'clock. I don't mind staying on a little bit if there's something you guys want to talk about, but I think we probably don't have too much more. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Yeah, Nick's got his own YouTube channel now. I'm not sure if it's already started yet or not. I know I saw that he made an announcement that he was putting one together. It's just going to be Karen Reed news all the time, I guess. I talked to Young Jelly on the phone. Let's call him Mike. I talked to Mike Crawford on the phone because I woke up one morning and he had sent me 20 apparently angry messages, but 17 of them had been deleted. So I don't know about 17 of them. But the 3 that were not deleted were angry messages, and one of them leaving a number like daring me to call him. So if you know anything about me at all, you know the next thing I did was call him. He doesn't know me, I guess. But like, what are you going on about? What are these ranting things that you're putting in private messages on Facebook and then deleting? What he was, I'm not, I want to, I'm not going to go into it all. I mean, there's no real, I believe everybody deserves a chance for a fresh start. Now, I don't listen to his show, so I don't know if he's taken that plunge completely. I know that he's gone against Turtle Boy a little bit, yes, and that's actually what he was messaging me about. But at the end of the day, you have to be you have to have the courage if you want to be in this business to try at least chase the truth and try to tell people the truth, whether it's what they want to hear or not. That's what courage is about. Now, if he now has that kind of courage, then I don't want to say anything discouraging because I do believe in growth. And, none of us is perfect and we all make mistakes along the journey. And if he has now had experienced a little bit of growth where he understands that Turtle Boy, the things that Turtle Boy does should not be tolerated. Decent people would not tolerate Turtle Boy's actions. And Mike Crawford not only tolerated them, but defended him for more than 2 years. Now, if he finally gets that that's wrong, good. So for as long as he stays on that path, and I haven't heard that he's left the path, but I don't really know. But as long as he's chasing the truth and having the balls to stand up for people that are bullied, then I'm willing to call him Mike Crawford. I'm happy to call him Mike Crawford if that's the case. He's made out like a bandit on this, though. His audience was just as small as mine tonight before he started covering Karen Reed, even though he'd been doing this for 10 years. So He made out like a bandit by siding with the mob. And now that's benefited him where he gets Howie Carr at his show and stuff like that. So he made out. He benefited from not chasing the truth. He benefited from being one-sided in his coverage, from being sycophantic in the way that he defended Turtle Boy, and he benefited from I don't know to what extent he went after those witnesses. He probably did, but I really don't know because I don't listen to his show. But he was actively part of Karen's shenanigans. He wasn't a journalist. He was just an advocate that was benefiting from that. Barb says many people have to live with selling their souls. And I agree with that 100%. And that's what's sad because maybe some of those people covering this have a good side. Maybe Nurse Kim has a good side. I don't know. But it looks to me just with most of them like pure selling of the soul. They don't care about the truth. They don't care who they hurt. They just care about themselves and what they can get out of it. And that's it. That's it. There's no attempt to tell their audience the truth. They don't tell their audience all of the relevant facts. That's one thing you guys know is I always will. I'll always tell you both sides of the facts that are relevant. I'm not gonna. I don't go looking for the soap opera kind of garbage stuff. Who's sleeping with who or something like that. I don't do that. But when it comes to a case, I give everybody what's relevant. Melanie Little's the worst. She's the worst. She is definitely not someone that ever chased the truth, probably on this or any case. So Pat says that Crawford is picking Karen's side as opposed to Turtle. Probably true. Probably true, Pat. So, like I said, I don't really discuss him, but in the hopes of growth on his part, I'll avoid calling him Jelly for now. Have we seen any courage on that side? I guess not. Not unless he really stands up to the mob. But they all feel like they have to kiss one ass or the other, I guess. And there's probably still a few left in the middle that maybe kiss both. But they feel like they have to kiss Karen's ass or Turtle's, one or the other. One thing they don't feel is that they should just look at the facts, the evidence, and report that. That's not something that ever enters their mind. They don't have any sense of ethics. Does it make sense, to attack somebody? Just for what the small role they may have played in this case. As long as somebody went in that stand and seems to have been telling the truth as best as they could, then no one should be attacked. Just a cold, I did not mute you. I don't even know how I could mute you. Can I mute you? I did not, and I don't even know how to. Let me check though to see if there's some kind of thing. I haven't even barely touched the keyboard. How do I mute you? There's no way for me to mute you. So you must have muted yourself. Just a cold, if you can still hear me, you must have muted yourself. And actually, all I can do is put you in timeout, right? But I didn't do that. You wouldn't be able to post at all. If you were muted, you wouldn't be able to post there. So, and and none of our moderators are here, and I have not put anybody into timeout or anything like that. So no, it wasn't me. Safari, yes, they're absolutely. They're picking which ass to kiss, and it's all emotion. It's all based on who they have the stronger emotional attachment to. It has nothing to do with who told the truth, who tells the truth, who's a good person, who deserves support. It has nothing to do with that. That's okay, Jessica Cold. It's no bad if you figured it out. As long as you figured it out, that's cool. Barb says Karen is trying to detach from the mob to elevate her image. Well, she's definitely trying to detach from the Turtle mob, or she's just legitimately pissed that he recorded her, right? I mean, who wouldn't be pissed about that? But I think she's always known since day one that she was going to have to detach herself from that mob, from Turtle Boy, anyways, from that man. I guarantee that her father, her family understood what he is. They don't want their reputation to be to somehow be in any way linked to Turtle Boy or the Glarer. But they'll pretend, won't they? If it helps get their daughter off, they'll pretend for a little while. I agree, Maui. I do agree. Without Turtle Boy, she never would have gotten off. I think that's probably true. It's hard to say, though. At the end of the day, this is one thing that people have to remember. Now, we have the advantage, if you've been following it for a couple of years, and if you followed the first trial, of seeing all the evidence, or most of the evidence, a lot more of the evidence than the jury got to see. And not just see it, but have a lot more time to process it. And this was a tough case. You're talking about a case where the victim, according to the state, the cause of death was a hit and run, basically. But yet he has no injuries below the neck other than some shallow abrasions on one arm. And the fatal injury on the back of the head, according to the state, was not caused by the vehicle. So you've got an uphill battle right there to prove to any jury, even that this person is guilty. You've got an uphill battle right there. And that's before you bring in any high-priced defense lawyers. That's before you have your case is so big that you're able to find shady experts like Dr. Marie Russell there. You just have this very difficult hurdle to get over. And that was always going to be hard. And so I think we have to remember now, even without the mob, you still would have had Karen bringing on high-priced defense lawyers with some shady experts. And they might have been able to create reasonable doubt. We can't say we'll never know. We'll never know. Turtle Boy was not doing it to be a nice guy. Of course not. Turtle Boy was doing it for himself because he wanted to be a star. This was his ticket to stardom, Maui. I don't even think he's sophisticated enough to think that she would legitimately. I don't even know if he knows what legitimize means, but he's not sophisticated enough to think in those terms. Because if he was, he wouldn't have been out there still calling John's mother the C word. Snow Salt. No, I do not want to be a star. Man, if you knew me, you'd know that I'm the last guy in the world that would want to be a star. The only thing I wish is, I'll tell you as far as a startup that I would like. I do wish that the channel was bigger so I could get good guests. That's it. But unfortunately, unless you're going to chase conspiracies, it's probably there's really no chance of it for someone. So I accept that. But no, I was never someone that wanted to be in front of a camera or a mic. That's just not me. Even in family photos, somebody pulls out the camera, I'm on the other side of the room. But yeah, no, Turtle saw this as his ticket to stardom. This was the big thing. He was going to be the star. He was going to be not only the star, but the hero because he got her off. Well, as far as will Turtle Boy survive this? I mean, look, we have to realize that with the trial, once the trial was over and not long after it, there was going to be audience shrinkage with everybody, even with the pro Karen side. People would get burned out to some degree, and there's just nothing new. But then obviously with the feud that's now going on, you got the split loyalties there. So obviously that's going to be a factor with Turtle's crowd. And the other thing is, he just the way he treats women, and as this gets more exposed, how many women in his audience are actually going to stick with him? I can't think very many. So Turtle Boy, his followers, instead of calling him Turtle Riders, maybe you should call him Turtle Bros, because that's pretty much all that's going to be left. But I think he'll survive this because he will have to go more and more down the road of conspiracy, like an Alex Jones type figure. But he never cared about the truth, so he has that advantage. He can just say whatever he wants. See, even the witness intimidation stuff, it was not motivated out of a desire or a belief that he could actually change the way somebody was going to testify. No, of course not. He was just creating content for his channel. And his crowd gets off on his cruelty to other people. So it's that simple. So if he creates an event and stunt, and he's going to do something that's cruel to one of the witnesses, that's just entertainment for his channel, and he's more than happy to generate it. Well, I don't know if we have any Patriots fans out there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the game last night. I know I did. Is today Saturday? No, that was 2 nights. So 2 nights ago, rather. Sorry. I don't know, Pat, the full story there or what the true source of all the venom is between JFK and Turtle Boy, but it seems to be just as much as somebody said earlier, they're trying to prove themselves to Karen. And that seems to be the main thing. And you feel like I know Mike felt like he was a big man because he thought he stood up to Turtle Boy. He didn't really even stand up to him, but like I said, I don't really know. I don't know what goes on. And I'll usually once a day, I'll click on Twitter to see if I have any messages. And at the top, you see a bunch of crazy stuff posted by Grant. And it almost feels like it's the same stuff that he posted the last time you looked. It's all the same. It's all crazy. It's all dot connecting. It's all making weird statements, trying to connect Kate to every person in the world that's up. They're all supposedly against Lindsay Gattani. It's lunacy. So I get kind of bored with it. Oh, by the way, if anybody looked for us on Twitter tonight, I could not get the feed going on Twitter. I canceled my premium. I forgot that would take away that right. So I'm going to go back and look at it. If I can, they have different tiers of spending on Twitter. If I can get a cheap one, I will keep it going. But I can't afford to spend $20 a month on Twitter just to keep the feed going from this. But if it's something like $10 or $15 a month, I'll probably bite the bullet and just do it. I know a lot of people do like to watch it from Twitter, especially if they're watching from their phone for some reason. They've told me that. So, especially if they don't have any need to comment. So, I do want to bring it back on Twitter for people, but so I'll try to fix that tomorrow. At the moment, I can't. I'll have to check on the pricing on that. Monday, I'll be on Margaret's channel with Jen Coffenaffer and Margaret's son. She's doing some more on the gambling stuff. And I had told her I was really interested in the AI use by some people to investigate cold cases. So she looked into it. She found it interesting too. So we'll talk about it a little bit with Jen. Do I think Proctor will do another interview? I don't know. I think all of these witnesses and people that testified, they have to take some time to unwind, I think. Margaret's channel is called It's a Crime. It's a Crime. But I will also go live on it here. So it'll be her channel. She's hosting it, but you'll be able to find it here. So if you don't find it, go there and give her a subscription. But if you don't find it, we'll be here too. It's a Crime. And like I said, for the Brian Walsh case, we will be here every morning for that all day. I do have the panel together. I have to work it out. I want to work it out. I got to find a way to work it out with Margaret so she wants to be able to host it sometimes from her channel. I got to find a way to do that and keep the panel going so we can still have Jen's special guests in. We'll figure that out. But are you guys into the Brian Walsh case at all? I mean, it should be an interesting trial. It's very rare in U.S. law to have a murder case, a successful murder prosecution where there's no body. Oh, good. All right, Maui's interested. Jude B is interested. Good. It's a big commitment for us to take this on. So, but I had a feeling you guys would want us to do that. So I'm going to take it on. But it's a big commitment in time and energy to do this stuff. Let's see who that's Cindy talking about Lizzie. Yeah, we'll definitely do the Lizzie. Definitely. Just trying to scroll through chat. Have I been in touch with Sean? Not since the end of the trial. He texted me, in the days after the trial, but I don't think I've been. It's been a long time. I don't think since then. Sorry, I missed some of these comments when the live. It only shows on my screen like 3 at a time. So I'm trying to scroll through. Safari, yeah, the panel was great, and they really carried me and picked me up because that was a very difficult time for me. I was going through radiation, then I was in the hospital for a week, in a lot of pain, and then I got out of the hospital, was very weakened, and was going through another 10 days of radiation and then chemo, and all that happened during the Karen Reed trial, and so I would not have been able to maintain that. As it was, I was setting up the show still and creating the thumbnails and stuff like that. And that's pretty much all I had the energy to do. And mostly Kate was the one that kept that going, but the whole panel did a good job. Yes, Molly, I'm feeling pretty good now, so pretty good, pretty optimistic. I get chemo once every 3 weeks. And about 5 days after, you go through a few days of suffering for it, and then after that, you're fine. Yep, I still talk to Kate. Yep. Yeah, I just talked to Kate this week, actually. I can see if she wants to come on for the Brian Walsh thing. I just don't think she's interested in it. She's not really that big into true crime, and I just don't think, which neither am I, but I just don't think she'd want to come on. I don't think she follows the case, but I'll check with her and see. All right, guys. Well, I got to last a little longer because I'm sitting in this chair here. When I sit in the chair in the office, it's my back doesn't last as long. So I get to move around a little bit more in this big chair here. I got the heating thing on behind me. So that's where I'll be sitting for the Brian Walsh trial too. So we'll be with you. Oh, Pat, Matthew DeSogro's testimony. No, I didn't go back and watch it. That's I remember you were accurate on it though. And actually, you know what? I was in and out for the trial, but that day I did see because he came late in the trial. And later in the trial, I was home. I was out of the hospital, and I was going for radiation every morning. But I was around in the afternoon, and DeSogros testified in the afternoon. I remember I saw his whole testimony, and actually, I thought his testimony was very impressive, very impressive. And I didn't think that stuff where they tried to put a dent in his reputation about making it seem like he had fudged his bio on LinkedIn or something like that. I didn't myself think that put a dent in him at all, because he explained that technical stuff in a way that I talked to people in my family who are not technical at all and who are older, and they understood it. So no, I thought he was a great witness. I thought he was much better than Dr. Welcher, much better. I thought Dr. Welcher, frankly, was, if I had to put one reason for the trial being lost, I would say Dr. Welcher, honestly. I would say that even more than Turtle Boy. Well, who am I thinking of? The guy that was the guy that did the technical stuff for I'm saying that's why I just don't have the names anymore. Who was the guy that worked for the same company as Dr. Welcher, Dr. Welcher's company, and who did the recalculation on the GPS times, the time, and he's the one that also explained the time slippage that was an issue. What was that witness's name? No. Shannon Burgess. Okay, I think that's correct. Yeah, that's right. That's who I'm sorry. So Pat, that's who I was thinking of. That's who I was thinking of. See, I don't know who's doing books on this at this point now, but I don't think whoever does do a book on this is really going to take Prince of Wales. You thought that Shannon was the worst expert? Why? That was the guy with the resume issue, right? I thought he was outstanding in his explanations on the stand. I thought he was outstanding. The latest I heard about the Netflix is March, but I'm not anywhere near an insider on that. I have no idea. Oh, the sidebars are important, but you get into issues on the transcripts though as to whether that should be made public. I might have missed a. You know what, Pat? I might have missed a Sogra. I might have. When you were talking to me the other day about that, I thought you were talking about Burgess. I just mixed the name up, but that's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah, he had that data down, and he had his explanation of it was so crystal clear. I didn't care what he had in his bio, and I wouldn't have cared if he lied about it either. Like, this guy's telling the truth. He knows his shit too much. Because listen, everybody in the world understands, especially people on the jury, what their own life experience. They understand that a lot of people have had to exaggerate something on a bio, on a resume. And I agree, Mao. I don't think he actually changed it. I think there was an automatic update thing that went on between his company and LinkedIn. But even if he had done that, who hasn't? I mean, everybody exaggerates something on their bio. I don't have a bio of mine, so I haven't done that. But I mean, anybody that's applying for work and has a bio, they probably have something on there that it's a little, especially when you're first starting out, when you're a young person. Probably pad your resume a little bit, Maui, I accept all that. I don't dispute it at all. I'm just saying that even if he did, even if you're a juror and you don't know all that information, and so you're in the jury room and you're deliberating, and you're wondering if this guy told the truth or fudged his resume, I just don't think it's going to matter to anybody. It doesn't impeach his credibility if he made some minor thing on his resume. I just think it's so common that it has nothing to do with how he does his job or whether it has nothing to do with his willingness to raise his hand and take an oath and then swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And I just don't think a jury would hold that against him. But I don't know. We'll see what this foreman said, right? Yeah, foreman only remembers one testimony that he checked out. I know, that's funny. How do you say that? I checked out. Unbelievable. I had someone that's exchanged emails with me off and on since the end of the trial. They claim to have been a juror. I doubt they were. Who knows, right? But who knows? They never identified themselves to me. Had they tried to get me to say something or try to convince me of something, I would have asked for proof. I would have asked for proof of who they were. Just send me a picture of who they are and tell me where you were sitting, and then we'd be able to figure out if they were actually a juror. I just never got to a point where it was worth trying to prove that because they weren't telling me anything anyways. They never told me their name. So, but based on one of the things that they were saying, she did seem to have some technical knowledge. And she did take a lot of notes, she said, on Ian Whiffen. That was where she took the most notes. All right. 9:30, getting up to my bedtime. Guys, thanks for being here. Appreciated it. And we will see you coming up soon. Certainly, I'll be on Monday on It's a Crime. That's Margaret's channel. We'll be live here, though, so don't worry. You can find it here.